And after we've done that, we start brainstorming, thinking big. The sky's the limit at this point. And when we come up with different ideas, we try to scope them down using different methods, and then we try to create a structure depending on different user scenarios. So we try to map different screens to be suitable for Windows Phone. And for example, we use panoramas and pivot to minimize the many levels that can be created in the app. And then we start prototyping. We can start by sketching out the interface. Already, when we prototype, it's useful to think about the grids and have metro design in the back of my head. We could use something called Sketchflow. I will demo it after lunch. It's a prototype tool made by Microsoft, so it's very easy to take your sketches and make them more interactive. And you don't have to know programming in order to make it clickable and sort of show animations and stuff in your prototype. And also keep in mind that you should be designed for touch if you're making a Windows Phone. And after that, we metrify it by putting colors, accent colors, and images. And then we polish it by adding the lights. For example, not in the MetroLink example, we could not only let the user enter the statistic and see it in a nice graph, but also show, for example, in the instruction pane, courses on how he can improve his swing or his putt or whatever you do. So it's not just used during the summer season. For example, in the winter when the golf course is closed, you still want the user to use your app. So in this case, the user can sit in the sofa and get better at golfing by reading instructions and watching tutorial videos, for example. So try to remember to put in these kind of delight and retain elements in the app, so it's not just used in one context, but it's also useful in other contexts. For example, here. And also shopping things, maybe local deals that are nearby for new putters or irons that might be useful to get. I can, before we round up here, I can show you the demo on Spotify. Now this is a demo that was showcased at the Microsoft conference called Mix that was held in Las Vegas earlier this year. Let's see if I can get to the screen. It's a very short and quick demo, so you have to pay attention.
Testing features. The first one, background audio. I'm excited to announce and demo for the first time Spotify coming to Windows Phone 7. Those of you, yeah, we're pretty happy about this too. Those of you from Europe, I'm sure, are probably very excited. Spotify being very popular over there. So here's the Spotify app. I can pan around. You can see it's a nice panorama. I'm just going to do this quickly. I'll go into an album. The track list is shown. I can click a track to start playing it. There you go. You can hear music is now playing. And the thing that our users will be excited about is that when I navigate away and go into other apps, check my email, all these sorts of things, music continues to play. And if I use the volume controls there, you can see they're available. And I can pause, skip tracks, the track information is shown, and so on. So we're excited to have Spotify coming to the platform, and we know lots of end users will be as well. And we're excited to have you use some of those multitasking APIs in your apps. Next up, I wanted to give you...
Yeah, next you'll show Angry Birds. So that's a quick sample. I don't know if you saw. Maybe I have a sketch of it. Yeah, I have a slide on it too, so you can see a little bit further of the panorama at least. I just want to emphasize the hardware. It's like Peter said. It's almost like developing for an iPhone. You know the basic specs, so you'll know that every phone will have a camera. Every phone will have an accelerometer, for example. So it's not like, for example, an Android phone where some devices have an accelerometer, some don't. So if you develop for a Windows Phone, you always know that your app will function. If you stick to the what do you call it, the minimal requirement that is on a Windows Phone, which is pretty high. And To make your app differentiate to other apps on other platforms, the Windows Phone uses a lot of panorama, which is a very Windows Phone specific thing. For example, on Spotify, now this is not the final sketch, this is a very early sketch of it. They used the panorama to pull up things that usually are very deep down in their app. And you can see that it's very Metro-ish. It's very scaled down, not a lot of decoration, but in the search bar at the top, in Metro design, the guideline is to not have rounded corners. It's to have sharp edges. So they tweaked that because they really wanted to round it, because they thought that it speaks to their design. So it's completely fine to tweak design. It's a guideline, so you don't have to stick to it. It's not rules or anything, just guidelines and recommendation. So if Spotify can do it, I think anybody can communicate their brand through Metro. And pivot is also something very Windows Phone-y. It's to sort different stuff in different views. It should be related data that is shown in different views for the user. And light tiles is also something that we encourage you to use in order to make your app different. It encourages users to pin the app. There's very few people that want to pin an app that is static, a dumb icon very top on their list. They want to pin a light tile that will show content without having to open it. So the light tile should be content. It shouldn't just be an icon. So that's something to think about.
On the light tiles, there are some new additions in the mango release.
Yeah.
So the light tiles are now double-sided, so it will flip over. You can show information on two sides.
Yeah.
And they can also link directly down into specific place in an application. You don't have to open the application and then you have to go and find this particular information. And that's pretty cool as well. So again, minimizing the distance from A to B and the number of clicks you have to make.
So what Peter just mentioned is called deep linking. So let's take an example for Spotify. I'm not saying it will be included or not. For example, if you have a playlist that you play very often, you could pin that playlist to your start. So as soon as you click that playlist, you'll start playing the playlist. So you don't have to start Spotify and find your playlist in order to start playing it. So you can make it possible for a user to pin undersides of your app to the start. And you can make several sites pinnable. So we encourage people to do that as well. And not only use that, we have different kinds of notifications that you can use to draw in the user. Now, tile notification was something that you surface on your light tile. And it's something called informative request. It's not informative notification. It's just something for the user to know. It doesn't require any actions or input. A toast notification is request. It's something that you ask for request. It's something that will show up no matter where your user is. Your application can push out a little notification that will show up as the little tile on top. For example, if I get a new SMS, I'll get a notification on top, so I can tap on that and open up my SMS. So if you have something that is very time critical in your app, you can push out a notification using that space up there. But it's something that is turned off by default. User has to actively press in your app that they want your application to notify you on that way, because it can be very abrupt for the user experience if every app started pushing out those things. But it's something that you can use in your app. And then pop up like raw notification, what we call something that the user had to react on before they get back to the screen that they were using. It's a simple pop-up that will only show within your app. So these three are three different kind of notifications that you can use in order to update the user about something that has happened in your app. And we talked about animation. I just want to close by showing you some navigation animations. These are the guidelines on what kind of animations to use when you want to show the user how they're navigating. The turnstile navigation is showing a big jump. For example, when you go into a new app. So it turns the whole page up and turns sort of the content inwards towards you. So that's called turnstile. Continuum is the animation that shows you that you're diving deeper into the app. to show more content. For example, when you open a mail, you're showing more content of that mail. So you dive into it, and that's called the continuum animation, and it looks like that.
And if we were to use these functions in a completely different app that isn't this, but we want that effect, how much code do we need to write? Can we just tie it to these functions and it will work?
With the toolkit or with the developer tools, there are some controls that comes within the tool. For example, a button will look like a Metro-ish button. You can have a list and the panorama. You already have pre-filled content that you can just change. But when it comes to these animations, they're not at the moment in that development tool, but it's a separate download. You can download from our open source page called Codeplex. And there you can find a lot of extra stuff, these animations, for example, that you can just pull in so you don't have to write the code yourself. Okay. I believe that in a future release of the developer tools, these will be included. But at the moment, they're separate.
All right, thank you.
And the swivel is to show, for example, pop-up. It just turns up on top of the screen and blurs down the current content. It's to show that whatever the user was doing is not lost, but he or she will get back to the same state after pushing the OK button, for example. And the slide animation is to show a dead end. For example, here is to show that I reached the theme settings and there's nowhere else to go but back. So the slide animation show that this is the dead end. You can't continue from here, but you have to go backwards. And to wrap up before lunch is three main things when it comes to Windows Phone is to put people first, personal, relevant, connected. Try to tie into those three threads when you make an app. And hopefully you'll be among the 1% that will be reused over and over again. And I think after lunch we'll do some workshop. I'll show you Sketchflow. And then Robert will be sitting on that space for anybody who wants to have the developer tools on their laptop. He'll show you how you can get it. You guys have free access to all Microsoft software since you're a student and the school is involved in MSD and AA. So you can get all the tools for free, and Robert can show you how to get it.
I have it on the stick, so it'll go fast if you do it today.
So this means basically for you guys with Macs that you install Windows on the Macs as well.
On the side.
On the side.
Yeah.
So you use
They will force you to
remove everything and put Windows on.
Yeah, they will force you to convert.
So basically you will install or you will boot
We have, I think 16 is a little bit on the low end, but it needs to be at least 16 gigs free. And you can just put in Windows, and it's pretty easy to take it away if it wouldn't be your thing, though I wouldn't know why you would want to do it.
Awesome.
It's going to be really neat. I hope you guys all are going to be here this afternoon. And I was pretty impressed because I only coded C before, so I don't know any C# more than what I've learned to be able to code for the phone. And I was surprised at how much you can get done without being an expert coder. Specifically, one thing that I don't like to code is user interface stuff, which worked really good in my app, even though I don't know anything about it, just because I stuck to those panoramas and other tools that were built in. And then I just made the graphics my own. So yeah, the stuff Danwei is going to show you both the sketch flow for prototyping and also the expression blend, which you can, where you can drag and drop buttons and actions and that kind of stuff. You can get really far without having to program. And then you have Visual Studio for when you want to get nitty gritty, which also works really well when you work in teams, which is how it's going to have to be nowadays because both websites and everything else is getting so complex that when you work in a team of 2 or 3, you can, each person can have a certain task and get working.
And with the tools I'm going to show you, you'll get a working prototype that has interaction, that has navigation, and functionality without having to be able to code. So I know that you guys had some assignments, individual assignments. Perhaps this could be a tool that you could leverage and use. So yeah, hope to see you after lunch.